Hey everyone, I'm Shruti, and for the next few minutes, you're going to be listening to my presentation. 5 months ago, baby Dave came into this world as a cute little bundle of joy. 3 months after his birth, Dave's mother started noticing a few things about him. Dave had excessive watering in both his eyes. He squinted frequently and turned away from bright light. Worried in what it might be, Dave was taken to the hospital. Poor little Dave was brought to the ophthalmology OPD for a thorough examination. The doctor, after eliciting a detailed history from the mother, considered a few differential diagnoses before proceeding to the examination part. The perfect fit for all the symptoms that the mother had mentioned was congenital glaucoma. However, other conditions also needed to be ruled out. For excessive watering or epiphora, congenital nasolacrimal duct obstruction, corneal epithelial defect, keratitis, and inflamed anterior segment uveitis had to be ruled out. However, they did not present with any redness or watery discharge that indicates an infection. Dave had a very enlarged cornea. Therefore, conditions like isolated axial myopia, which could be pathological myopia, and megalocornea also had to be ruled out. It was obvious that Dave had some amount of corneal edema. Therefore, forceps related to birth trauma, congenital anomalies like sclerocornea and Peters anomaly, congenital hereditary endothelial dystrophy, and posterior polymorphous dystrophy are possible candidates that could be causing this corneal edema, opacification, and they had to be ruled out too. For the posterior segment pathology concerned with the optic nerve head, it could be a coloboma or an atrophic optic nerve hypoplasia, or it could be even physiological, which needed to be ruled out. This child does not have any other systemic symptoms. However, a thorough clinical head to foot examination is warranted to rule out the same, as conditions like Sturge Weber and Marfan's must also be kept in mind given the age of presentation and before concluding that this is an isolated ocular pathology. It was a tough day for baby Dave as he had to undergo a complete ocular examination. Given his age, he had to be anesthetized in order to observe the structures properly. As an anesthetic, halothane may falsely underestimate and ketamine may falsely overestimate the intraocular pressure. Therefore, IOP, which is a crucial component of any ocular examination, had to be checked immediately after intubation to avoid false recordings. The first parameter that needs to be checked is the intraocular pressure, which is checked using a Perkin-Sandhill applanation tonometer or an electronic tonopen. The normal IOP in an infant is much lower than in an adult. However, 21 millimeters of mercury remains a useful upper limit. Dave's IOP, however, was very high. It was around 26 millimeters of mercury, which is a cause for concern as it is a big warning sign for congenital glaucoma. Corneal diameter can be measured under anesthesia with the help of a caliper placed 180 degrees apart with the tips at the limbus. Dave's corneal diameter was found to be around 14 millimeters, which was on the higher side. The next thing to do is a portable slit lamp examination, wherein the cornea is looked at for breaks in the Descemet's membrane. Dave's cornea showed horizontal folds indicating there's a break in the Descemet membrane, and this is characteristically called Harp's striae. Other findings were corneal edema, Descemet membrane tears, and buphtalmos, which is an enlargement of the eye due to excessive stretching of the cornea. Dave has a raised intraocular pressure, which could lead to rapid enlargement of the eye, subsequent stretching of the cornea, which breaks the Descemet membrane. As a result of which, the endothelium is also disrupted, and that is the cause for corneal edema and clouding that we see. Anterior segment examination was otherwise uneventful with normal eyelids, lashes, conjunctiva, sclera, and iris. Anterior chamber, however, was found to be deep. No scleral thinning is an important observation as it could have been a contributing factor to the buphtalmos that we observed. Pupil was found to be normal in reacting to light before anesthesia. Lens was normal. Roplas and syringing tests were performed and they showed no characteristic findings, ruling out nasolacrimal duct obstruction. Lacrimal apparatus was also found to be normal. A gonioscopic examination was done to observe the anterior chamber angle under the Kopy's lens. No membrane is seen. There's an open angle with the absence of an angle recess. There is a high and flat iris insertion with a thickened uveal trabecular meshwork indicating neovascularization. The posterior segment is examined with the help of an ophthalmoscope. There is an increase in the cup disc ratio. There is also a refractive error of -1 diopter observed with a streak retinoscope. This is significant because in an infant there is hyperopia. However, due to an increase in the axial length, there is a myopia in this case. At the end of the ocular examination, it becomes abundantly clear that this child Dev has a primary congenital glaucoma. Why does Dev have congenital glaucoma? Answer lies in the embryology. In the developing eye, a few cells remain undifferentiated, and these are the neural crest cells. They form the trabecular unlarge, which develops into the future angle of the anterior chamber. The Schlemm's canal forms as a collection of small capillaries that fuses to form a single elongated slit-like vessel. Goniodysgenesis is failure of development of the angle. That could be trabecular dysgenesis or iridocorneodysgenesis. Isolated trabecular dysgenesis is the hallmark of primary congenital glaucoma, where there is impaired aqueous outflow without any major ocular abnormalities. This is controlled by the CYP1B1 gene. Iridocorneodysgenesis, however, is associated with various abnormalities like Axenfeld-Rieger, Peters anomaly, and aniridia, which are all causes of secondary glaucoma. The triad of symptoms which defines congenital glaucoma is epiphora, photophobia, and blepharospasm. The doctor had a huge responsibility to explain things correctly to the mother. Therefore, she decided to use a few visuals and videos to explain what her son exactly has. Aqueous humor is a very important fluid secreted by the eye in order to maintain its intraocular pressure. It is secreted by the ciliary body and it drains via a structure called the trabecular meshwork. So what happens in glaucoma is that this trabecular meshwork gets clogged. Therefore, there is obstruction to the outflow of the aqueous. Glaucoma, by definition, is a chronic progressive optic neuropathy, meaning the outflow obstruction to the aqueous puts pressure inside the eye on the vitreous body, and this further puts pressure on the retina. And there are some optic nerve head changes that happen which could cause permanent blindness if left untreated. This pressure on the eye also leads to the stretching of cornea, which appears as ophthalmos or enlargement of the eye. Treatment modalities include surgery as the mainstay of management. Medical management can be used temporarily to lower the IOP and can be used to clear the hazy corneas. Beta blockers and carbonic anhydrase inhibitors are preferred. Alpha agonists are contraindicated. And medical management may be required post-surgery for visual rehabilitation. Two surgeries can be performed, the first of which is called the goniotomy. And this can be done for a clear cornea, wherein a horizontal incision is made at the midpoint of the superficial layers of the trabecular meshwork directly, and the success rate is about 85%. The goniotomy surgery involves entering the anterior chamber with a sharp knife and then making an incision through the abnormally developed meshwork to allow outflow of the aqueous. The next surgical modality is a trabeculotomy, which can be performed even on hazy corneas. What we do here is that we enter via a scleral flap and reach the Schlemm's canal, try to canalize it, and we use a trabeculotome to open the drainage angle in order to lower the intraocular pressure. In this case, the prognosis looks to be good with adequate treatment and visual rehabilitation. It looks like Dev is going to be having good vision for the rest of his life, provided he takes the treatment early. Thank you.